I'm so excited to bring you this video because this video is all about the Jessup makeup brushes. There are 25 brushes that come in this collection. And as a makeup artist of over 10 years, I always get asked by my clients of what is an affordable option? What can I do? Because when I come in and I have my kit and I have all my expensive brushes and my expensive tools and my expensive products, that may not be the everyday reality for most people. So I bought a very inexpensive brush kit on Amazon for $55, and I'm gonna test it out for you to see if it's worth it. Now, you're about to have a jump scare because you're about to see me with no makeup, but this full look was created with the brush kit, and you're gonna see some brushes that I loved and some that should go in the trash. I ordered these on Amazon and they were rated really, really well, and they're supposed to be a complete brush set. So let's put them to the test and let's see how they actually do. Packaging is cute. It's called Jessup from Hong Kong. Not 100% sure what that is or familiar, but it was rated really well. This is the packaging inside of the bag. Oh wow. Okay, so all of the brushes are individually packed inside, which is actually really cool. That's a really good first impression. It says professional, fine, original Jessup. Let's see. Talks about normal shedding, why the wooden handle could crack, if there's odor when opening the package. It says that they are safe and eco-friendly materials. They do have a smell. They almost smell like paint, kind of like a paint light smell. It says there's dry powder brushes, cream brushes, and animal hair brushes. Okay, and it tells you how to clean them. Okay, everything looks pretty good and straightforward from the packaging. And here are all of the brushes. There are so many brushes. I mean, I think that this is gonna be a full face. I think we're good to go, but let's find out. Normally, I wouldn't want to be having breakouts, but in this case of trying out all the brushes, it's actually a good thing. So I'm going to start by priming my face and getting my skin ready and then concealing some of those things while I move on to the next steps. Oh my gosh, there's so many. So some of these steps I would normally use my hands for, like doing my primer or my serums and stuff, but since I have this full brush set, I want to see if it's possible to actually use brushes with them. Each of these brushes has actually like a little description on it. So it'll like say what it's supposed to be doing, which is actually nice. So each of these brushes has like a little description on it. So this one says Luxe Soft Crease on it, which is actually kind of cool, but I'm gonna see if there's any that are for serums. I don't think that there are any serums. This may be just for the makeup application itself and no skin applications, which is totally fine. I'm going through and I'm taking out all of these just to make sure and see if there are any that would work for serum or primer based, and I don't really see any that I think would work. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do my primer off camera like I normally would, and I'll just use my fingers. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use each brush as it says that they should be used. So this one says brow liner. I'm going to actually use each brush for what it says it's supposed to be for. So let's see if it's even good. I don't normally start off with my brows, but for purposes of this, I will. And this is the Jessup 322 Brow Liner. I would say I don't normally even do my brows. I am gonna do them just so I can try to use every single brush and give a really honest review, but my brows are so full naturally that I don't like them done too much because then I just feel like it looks a little overwhelming and it looks a little bit too striking. But so far, this little brush is doing a great job. I'm very impressed because these brushes were not expensive, so I'm not gonna tell you that I was expecting the world from them, but so far, so good in terms of the brow. This brow is really good. It's a little bit thicker than I would probably want it to be. This is kind of like an all-over fluffy brow brush. I'm gonna be using this Jeffree Star Orgy palette for pretty much everything that I could use it for because it is absolutely amazing. If you don't own this already, I think it's $60. Yes, the name is very intense, the Orgy palette, and the names are quite suggestive, but it is an amazing palette, especially if you love mattes. It's all nude shades of mattes. And I find this to be just an easy go-to palette, especially when you're going out of town or something like that. You can just take this one palette. You don't have to take everything. It's all matte, so many different shades. You can do so many different looks with it. And I am using it on my brows. I'm using shade Money Shot on my brows, which is like it's listed as like a deeper brown, but it's like a neutral deeper brown. Let me count how many brushes there are. 1, 2, 5, 25 brushes. That's a lot of brushes. It's 25 brushes for like $55. It's like less than $2 a brush, which is unheard of. I'm used to buying MAC brushes, which are like $30 to $50 a brush. So that's absolutely amazing. Okay, now that brows are done, I'm gonna move on to the eyes. And I like to prep my eyes by putting a layer of concealer over it. And I do not see a typical concealer brush that I would use in this package. The 233 Cream Shader brush is gonna be the closest thing to a concealer brush that I see here. I do see a concealer buffer, and I thought I saw like another concealer buffer, but this is not what I would use to typically put on my concealer. So I'm going to use the Cream Shader instead. I like to put the shadow on top of a actual concealer base, because if I put it on a concealer base, it's turning my eyelids all one color. As with your natural lid, you can show like veins and you can have discoloration. So putting a concealer on top is gonna make a nice clean slate for you. Okay, first impressions of this brush. I guess it's getting the job done, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite brush in the world. I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like it's going on as smoothly as I would like it to do. It's definitely workable and it's definitely doable. This is not the worst brush in the world. Don't get me wrong. This is not the worst brush in the world. But when I'm comparing this to like my MAC brushes, it's just, I think there was a little bit of brush shedding, which is normal, especially on first use and first wash. I would expect some of that. So that doesn't necessarily scare me. I just don't want it to excessively start shedding. Again, on this eye, I am feeling like this product is just not gliding on as easy as I'm used to with other brushes. So I'd say this brush is like a 5 out of 10 for what I want it to do. It's not the worst, but it could be a lot better. Now that I've got my concealer base on, I like to take a big fluffy brush and press it into the skin. They have 2 here. There's a buffer, and then this one says defined buffer. I guess either would work. They don't feel as dense as I would like them to do. Like, so the bristles don't feel like, usually when I hit them, I don't want it to push into my skin so easily. I like it to give me a little bit of a harder kickback, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. To blend it out, I am gonna use the defined buffer and just kind of press this into the skin. This is great. It's doing what it needs to do. Again, I am used to like a little bit of a more denser brush, but it does seem to be blending this out really, really easily. It's not giving me a hard time. Next, I'm looking for like a really fluffy brush to just do an all over shade. This brush is a bit bigger than I'm used to having one, but this is their Luxe All Over Shader. And this one, oddly enough, this one is pretty dense. So I'm gonna just take like a really light shade and set that in, and let's see how it does. Yep, pretty straightforward. Seems to be going on just fine. So as a makeup artist, when I do makeup lessons, I typically tell my clients, I say it's 50% your skill, 25% your products, and 25% your tools. So for an example, if I could have the best products in the world and I could be a makeup artist, but if my tools aren't that great, I'm gonna get a 75% good look. So tools are a very good and important part of the process. Great, this brush did exactly what I needed it to. Okay, moving on, I'm gonna take this Luxe Soft Crease, because this is the next one I see that might be well, it's pretty There are two fluffy brushes. This one's a bit more dense than this one. This one is the Luxe Crease and this one is the Soft Crease. The Soft Crease is a little bit more bendy, I would say, than the Luxe Crease, but I'm gonna use the 221 Luxe Soft Crease to put a very smooth transition shade all over my lid. Wow, okay. Pigment looks amazing. It's definitely transferring over really, really well, which I love. And it is blending out really nice. This is a really good brush for the eyes. I love that it's picking up the pigment really well and it's putting it on the eyes really well. It doesn't seem to be soaking up a lot of the pigment or not transferring over the pigment correctly. So that is a A+++ in my book. This brush so far is performing as well as a professional brush and what I would expect a professional brush to work for. And again, at like $2 a brush, this one's a keeper. I am very happy with that 221 Luxe Soft Crease. I'm very happy with this brush. I really, really like it. That one is definitely gonna be going in my professional kit. I'm now gonna go in with the 227 Luxe Soft Definer and add a little bit more dimension into like the mid to outer corner of my eyes. I'm gonna go a slightly deeper shade and just kind of start blending that in. I do have hooded eyes, so for me, I try to keep my crease higher because if I put it too low, it brings focus that my eyes are naturally a bit lower. So if I put the crease up high, it creates an illusion that my eyes are actually wider. And if you do things right, your lashes will also make your eyes look bigger. This one is the 234 Luxe Smoky shader. So now I'm a little inspired. Maybe we should put a little bit of brown towards the lash line and maybe we smoke it up. I'm gonna use this 317 wing liner and put a little bit towards my lash line and then we'll smoke it up. I'm actually going back with that Money Shot color, which is the same one that I used on my brows. These eye brushes are really doing what they are supposed to be doing. I'm actually really impressed by what these are doing. Now this is the winged liner brush, but I will say that you can just use this as an all-over liner brush. It is a little bit bigger than I would like, but there is its friend, which is the detail liner. So if you were wanting to get in real close, you could use this one. So far, so good. I'm going to go in now with this detail shader brush and add a little bit and define more of the inside of my eye and hopefully make this pocket look a little bit bigger. Because again, I do have the hooded eyes, so I'm always trying to make my eyes look a little bit wider. And I'm gonna go in with Jeffree Star shade Silk Robe. Now I'm gonna use the 321 detail brush and I'm gonna go real closer into my lash line with that same color, that same dark brown color, because this is gonna give it a more tight lined look rather than my wider brush that I use, the wing liner brush, that's a little bit wider. This one's gonna give it tighter to the lash line. And for me, because I have hooded eyes, I want to keep it relatively close to my lash line, because if it's too high up, it'll bring that space between and make it too small. So far, I'm really impressed with the brushes for my eyes. I cannot believe that this is what you're getting for the price. These are absolutely amazing. My biggest gripe so far is the cream shader brush, but all of these other brushes that I've had to use on my eyes, so far, so good. I can see that some of the brushes, I don't know if you can see that, but there's just a little bristle that kind of wanted to like stick out and curve. Like I feel like I might have to cut that one later. Oh, but besides that, for like $2 a brush, you can't beat it. To do my eyes, I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brushes so far. So that means I still have 15 other brushes that I can get to with the rest of my face. First, I'm gonna start with my little pimples but I really don't have another option to use in this brush set besides this cream shader brush, which is not my favorite, but I will have to use it. I'm gonna use this cream shader brush. Maybe I'll like it for other products. This is the MAC concealer palette. This is actually like a Concealer Pro palette that I'm using here. And I'm gonna try to color correct some of this before I put the actual concealer on top. And I do like the way that it is applying these MAC creams a little bit better. Now MAC knows what they're doing, so this is a fantastic product to begin with, which really helps. I'm gonna use the other side of the brush and apply my pink color corrector, because as I'm getting older, I am noticing that I am getting darker and darker circles underneath my eyes, which I would like to thank my children for, but realistically, it's probably just me getting older. Okay, this brush is kind of redeeming itself a little bit. I'm liking the way it's applying these cream shades from MAC. I used a Tarte cream earlier and I didn't feel like it went on as easy. Maybe that's, I don't know why that is. In theory, you would think the brush would do good with both MAC and Tarte, so I have no idea why it's applying these matte creams a little bit better, but seemingly so. Now I'm gonna use the concealer buffer to kind of just buff out those edges, and hopefully this will blend into my foundation a little bit better. Oh no, I feel like this brush is like removing, I feel like it's kind of removing the product a little bit. I don't feel like it's, oh no, okay. So I'm not crazy about this brush either. It's not horrible, but it's not ideal either. I'm kind of just buffing out these concealer products, and I do feel like it's removing a little bit, which is not what I'm looking for it to do. I kind of want it to just blend and smooth out the edges, but I do feel like this brush is kind of removing a bit. This is the 142 concealer buffer. So far in terms of these products, it's looking like the eyeshadow ones went really well, and the concealer ones I am not so much a fan of. But again, at $2 a brush, I mean, keep this as a backup. I'm going to use my cream shader brush again because I don't think I have another option to kind of get the foundation onto my face, and then I'll use another one of these blending ones to try to get it out. Now, if you can't tell already, I rely on my concealer brush a lot. So if you're like me and you rely on it a lot, so far this set is seemingly like it's very much worth it, but you might want to invest in like a great MAC one. Morphe even has a really good concealer brush. I love ones that are not natural fibers, they're the synthetic fibers, because you're going to be using so many cream products, or I use a lot of cream concealer products. I don't know people who are using powder concealer products. I will say it seems to be picking up my MAC foundation cream really, really well. Now, I wonder why that is. I wonder if this brush is picking up like heavier creams better than lighter creams. That would be my guess, but again, this is my first time using this brush set, so I'm kind of going off of initial impressions here. Now I have to be careful when I'm going over areas that I already concealed. I don't want to swipe them onto it because it will remove the product that's underneath. I kind of just want to like put it on top of it and gently stipple it onto that area. But I am going to go in with one of their other brushes to blend this in more. I'm just kind of getting with this concealer or this cream shader. Again, this isn't even a concealer brush. This is a cream shader brush, which means it should be used on the eyes, but I don't see another concealer brush. Okay, I've got the foundation onto my skin. I'm gonna use now the 109 Luxe Face Paint brush. I actually never use a brush like this, so I'm kind of curious how it's gonna go. It is fairly dense. It's not super dense. It does give me some bounce back, but I think it's gonna be able to do what I need it to do. I hope it's gonna be able to do what I need it to do. But I'm gonna go down here, and again, where I concealed over already, I just wanna kind of press it over, and it seems to be doing what it needs to be. It says Luxe Face Paint. So that tells me in these areas I should be able to drag it and it kind of swirl. It is shedding a little bit, but that is to be expected for new brushes. Just again, a tiny bit of shedding is normal. We don't want excessive, but a tiny bit of shedding is not unheard of. I'm actually gonna go back in with this cream shader because I need to extend it down a little bit where the sun don't shine, because if not, it looks a little weird. Most people have like an area on their neck where it's either they have a darker face or a lighter area, or they could be a little bit miscolored here and lighter on top. So it's really important to just kind of bring it down and try to blend things in a little bit better. And of course, according to the neckline that you're wearing. So if you're wearing something that's really high up on the neck, then you may not need to do that. But especially for those who are gonna be wearing something off the shoulder, or even if it's a little higher up, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're blending this down. I will say that these brushes are giving my chin a slight bit of issue, and this face paint brush is really seemingly shedding, and it is seemingly kind of, the brushes look like they're getting a little, the bristles look like they're getting a little wonky already. I am losing bristles by the second on this brush. This brush is having abnormal shedding. That's what I would say about this one. This one seems to be just not living its best day because it is not doing what it needs to be doing. And I am having a bit of an issue blending out the foundation on my nose. It is acting a little bit more. Okay, I have bristles all over my face now from this brush. So this brush is getting like a 1 out of 2 review. I don't know if you can see. Okay, this brush has shed so much. The bristles are all over the place. This is the 109 Luxe Face Paint Brush. I'm going to just set this one aside because I'm gonna switch to a different one. It is not working. I'm gonna switch over to this 122 Petite Stippling brush, and let's see if this is a little bit better in terms of blending things out. I had high hopes for the face paint, but that face paint brush is out of here. Okay, I hope that these bristles I'm finding are still from the other brush and not this new brush, but I have bristles all over my face, like stuck in my foundation. I feel like I can feel the bristles still all over my face. Okay, time for the concealer. I have to go back to this cream shader brush in order to do so. We have a love-hate relationship, this brush and I. I'm placing my concealer right on top of my color corrector. Okay, something else just shed again. I'm gonna use what's left over on this concealer brush to just go back in on the brow and kind of define it just a little bit more. Our brows are sisters, they're not twins. Or maybe you've heard the phrase they're cousins, they're not twins. I don't want them to be distant cousins, but then I'm just gonna blend that back out. I don't have any new product. I don't have any new product on the brush. I'm just using what's left over to kind of blend that out and make my sister brows a little bit more symmetrical. I'm really trying to use these brushes according to what they're supposed to be for, but something in me says that some of these brushes could be used for other things that they're not listed for, and they might actually do better. Like, one of my favorite brushes I own is a Real Techniques brush, which is technically supposed to be used for contour, but I'm telling you, it's amazing for the foundation instead of the contour. So that might be the case with this too. This is my first time playing with this brush set, so I might actually like some of these brushes for other uses than what they're listed for, but purposes of this video, I am doing as I'm supposed to do, and I am using them as I am told. Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna go back to the eyes, and just so that I can use a new brush, I'm gonna use the 230 Luxe pencil. I'm gonna put like a transition shade there. Oh my gosh, there's so much of these brush shedding. I still think that it was this face shape one, but Now I don't know which brush was shedding that much. I'm hoping after these brushes get a bath, they're gonna stop shedding so much. You're gonna get a nice, deep, clean bath, and hopefully that will fix the problem. I do like this Luxe pencil brush. That went on really, really nice under the eye. I'm now gonna go with a slightly deeper shade and use the smudger and see how that works. Fabulous, 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 fabulous. And let's go back with the detail liner underneath the eye to kind of do a small eyeliner effect in the outer corner. Eye brushes are 10 out of 10. And honestly, for the price, like, you cannot beat it. I would pay $55 just to have the eye set. So everything else is really a bonus from here on out because the price is unbeatable. So I was planning on using a cream blush and a cream contour because that's typically what I do. Since I'm so dry, I'm normally doing so many creams to kind of combat that dryness. Powders don't tend to work as well on my skin, but this brush set that I have left for the face is definitely aimed towards powders. These are not aimed towards creams. So I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna do more powders. I'm gonna use a translucent powder. This is the fluffiest of the fluffy brushes, and this is the 106 powder brush. As you can tell, it's not super dense. It collapses pretty easy. Again, I like my brushes a bit denser. I don't need it like a kabuki, super dense, but this one is definitely very bendable. Let's see how it goes. I'm not super wild about this one. I do feel like it's kind of removing a little bit of my foundation and shifting it, which I'm not a big fan of. I think it's because this is so bendy that it's kind of, whenever I push it into the skin, I feel like it's wanting to drag it instead of pushing it into my skin. So I don't hate it. It's not the worst brush I've ever seen, but I'm not wild about it. So I'm going back in now with this 104 buffer brush, and I'm just pushing that into my skin. So I put the powder on top with the powder blush, and now I'm just making sure it's like really pushed into my skin by going back over with that buffer. I also have this Luxe Face Definer brush. This brush confuses me a little bit with this Luxe Face Definer because then you have this Luxe Sheer Cheek. So I'm assuming this is supposed to be your blush brush. I would usually use this maybe more like a contour, a soft powder contour, but I don't really have another option unless I went with this stippling blush and I put that one for my blush, but I don't really have any good blush / contour options. It's kind of like one or the other. I was going to do a little bit of bronzing, contouring, but I don't see what brushes I would use that for. There is this face shape one, but I wouldn't typically, I would usually do like a cream, but then what would I blend it out for? I think we're gonna use this for a little bit of a soft bronzer in a powder form. I'm gonna use the face shape brush, and I'm going to just use a little bit of like a contour bronzer situation. Oh, that went on really pretty. So this is really kind of something I wouldn't typically use, although, am I changing my mind? I kind of like this. This is a really, really pretty brush to use for a bronzer, and it's really soft. This is a really good powder brush. This brush is making me eat my words. It's doing it good. Again, not typically how I would do this process, but it's not that it's doing a bad job. This is a good little brush. I'm pretty happy with this face shape brush. Again, not typically how I would have applied it or a brush that I am used to, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. Now I'm going to use these Luxe Sheer Cheek, because again, I'm following my directions. Luxe Sheer Cheek. Sheer tells me that it's not gonna go on very pigmented, but oh, that's going on pigmented. Actually, I would say that this is more pigmented than my other brush typically picks it up. Oh, we're liking her. She is pretty. Wow. I am very impressed by this brush. I don't think she's a sheer cheek, but she's a pretty cheek. I should rename this brush just Luxe Cheek. Again, this brush, you could definitely use this as like a powder contour brush because it's kind of shaped at an angle, which I do love. I could honestly use this as a blush brush or a contour brush, and I do like that because you can use it as a multi-purpose. Again, you would want more than one. You would want one for blush and one for contour. I wish they had 2 of these in this set because I really like this one. It went on really pretty. It did not like hold on. So typically now I would go in and blend it, but I wasn't a big fan of that powder brush. So I'm going to try this Luxe Face Definer and see if this will blend it a little bit better. I'm liking their other, I just feel like their big powdery brushes are kind of pulling it off of my face too much. This is best used for a bouncing motion like this, but like very defined. So sometimes with my more like dense brushes, I'm able to do that like in a smaller motion and it doesn't drag it off the face. This one, you really need to make sure that you are like bouncing it fully off the face, if that makes any sense. I'm going back in with the leftover that I had on this brush that I didn't like, this petite stippling brush, and just kind of making sure that my foundation is covering a little bit more. I don't personally like it when my blush goes too low, so I'm just making sure that it's nice and blended in with my foundation over here. This eye blender was actually pretty good. It's a little bit denser than I would have thought something labeled an eye blender would be, but for me, it did the job of taking the powder and really pressing it into it where I needed it to be. I would say that this is such a multi-purpose brush too. So like, you could use this in so many different ways. It's really doing what it needs to be doing. I have been very impressed with these eyeshadow type ones. Next, I will use the Luxe Highlight brush, which that is very self-explanatory. It's just gonna be some highlight that goes on the cheek. I don't tend to use highlight much places besides the cheek. For me, I'm never trying to highlight my nose. I don't have the smallest nose in the world, so I'm not trying to bring attention to it. This highlighter brush is doing exactly what it needs to do. Nothing crazy, very simple, went on perfectly. Just so that I can try to use as many brushes as I can, I will use this Luxe Petite crease, and I will just put a little bit of highlight underneath my brow bone. Seemingly went on really nice. I'm not gonna have the biggest judgment on this brush because I'm using it for such a minimal job, but so far so good. I'll put a little bit right here. Trying to use these brushes as much as I can to get a good read for you. I'm gonna use this Luxe crease brush, and I'm just gonna kind of put a little bit on my nose to try to thin it out and see how it does. Lips are on. Okay, final thoughts. Looking at all of these brushes, you have 25 brushes. One, I did not use it all, so I cannot give you an opinion on this one because we don't know anything about it. So I'm gonna discount that one. I have one brush that I have a severe problem with, and that is the Luxe Face Paint brush. I do not like this brush. I hate this brush, actually. 0 out of 10 stars, not crazy about it. Then you have these other brushes, the Petite Stippling, the Luxe Face Definer, the powder brush, and the cream shader. These have to be a bit more specific, but they are doable, okay? I would say I'm giving these like a 5 out of 10. You can find something better. I mean, yes, they're at a great price, but for me, I don't wanna work with that. I just don't feel like I need to work with that. Then I have these face buffer brushes, and these are good. These are good. I would say they're like a 6 out of 10. They're okay. I mean, they're not the worst out of it. If I'm looking at everything correctly, I love these. That is a total of 17 brushes. 17 out of 25 brushes to love is pretty dang good. And for $55, okay, so that comes out to like what? Maybe $3? Maybe $3 a brush. I would say that buying this set for this alone is worth it. And again, this is my opinion. These are how it worked for me. You might love some of these other brushes that I didn't love. So there's one brush that I never tried and I can't give an opinion on it. One brush that I absolutely hate and is going into my I hate brush pile, which I might make a separate film about a full face of brushes that I hate. Then I have 6 brushes that are, they're okay. They're not gonna be anything that I rush to, but if you have to get the job done, they are doable. And that leaves 17 brushes that I do love. For the price, this is a kit that is so worth it. It's like $55 on Amazon. I will put the link in the comments so you can go ahead and get this yourself. Tell me which ones are your favorite brushes. Tell me if you get this kit and you also hate this brush and you've had the same problem, or tell me if you get this kit and you have figured out some other way to use these, because again, everybody does their face a little bit different. I've been a makeup artist for 10 years, but just because I do my face this way doesn't mean that you have to do your face this way or that other artists do their face that way. I work with so many incredible artists and I've met so many incredible artists who approach the face in so many different ways. And that's actually one of my favorite parts about working with other people is I get to see how they would use a brush, how they use a product, how they attack things. And I think I'm constantly learning and growing. 10 years into this, I'm still learning and growing things, and I love seeing new products that come out, but I will say, I'm pretty excited about this brush kit. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and leave us a comment and a like. Be sure to subscribe. I plan on making so many more videos on a wide variety of topics, everything from Halloween makeup to wedding day makeup to everyday makeup to trying new products. I want to give real, honest, unfiltered opinions because I can't be bought. See you next time.